Lead story. Well, the Bombay High Court's Aurangabad bench has overturned the conviction of a man and his family over allegations that they did not let his wife watch television, go to the temple, meet neighbors, and made her sleep on the carpet. A single judge bench of Justice Abhay S Waghwase said that the aforementioned actions against a woman now dead would not constitute as severe under the offence of cruelty under the Indian Penal Code. The court said that the allegations would not comprise physical and mental cruelty as they pertain to the domestic affairs of the accused. The court also dismissed a woman's family member's allegation that she was made to fetch water at midnight after the man's family stated that in their village water supply started there at the time and all households went to fetch water at 1:30 a.m. We're looking at the larger ramifications of such observations. Should high courts be more responsible in making observations? Does it warrant a high court overturning a man's conviction based on the understanding that such actions do not comprise severe cruelty? What do women's rights activists think about this? Well, joining me on the show this evening is Flavia Agnes, women's rights lawyer. Also, Brinda Adige, social and women's activist, somebody who has been a very articulate voice on this. Let me go across to you, Ms. Agnes, first. How do you see the High Court's observations? Many would say it's insensitive. Others would say that, well, the High Court should have been more responsible in making such a remark and, setting a precedent as far as, the entire cruelty against women scenario is concerned.
I think it is a really backward judgment which defeats the very purpose of cruelty under IPC, as well as cruelty as a civil remedy. According to me, what drives a woman to a suicide or what constitutes cruelty has to be her personal feelings about it, what she understood, what she felt about it, and making her sleep on the carpet, not allowing her to meet her relatives, using abusive language to her. All this constitute cruelty under the Act. So the Bombay High Court Nagpur bench judgment, according to me, is very regressive, and it sets the women's rights discourse several ranks lower than what it was. So this will be taken advantage of by the defense lawyers in cruelty cases in the courts in the coming months. You can see its impact. And I was quite shaken when I read this, and I was extremely upset that courts can pass such a judgment on a woman who is not even alive. She's died. And now it's only her family people who are litigating for her.
So you made a very important point, Ms. Agnes, at the very outset, that what constitutes cruelty or what drives a woman to attempt suicide is a personal understanding, is a personal choice. And for the High Court to term it as petty allegations is really shocking. Won't you agree, Brinda Adige?
I totally agree with that. How can the High Court decide what is cruelty and not?
Yes,
cruelty. It is
yes.
her own experience.
I'll come back to Ms. Agnes. Ms. Adige, go ahead.
It is her own experience. What she experienced in her married life. And I think this is very, very essential for us to advance women's rights. And it was very shocking that High Court has given such a verdict, setting aside the conviction and what was held in the lower court.
Let me quickly take opening remarks from Ms. Adige as well, and then I'll come back to Ms. Agnes. Ms. Brinda Adige, go ahead.
I'm appalled. I'm appalled with the order that this judge has given. We know that structures are largely patriarchal in our country. But every time we talk about a law that is there to protect women or children or other gender people, every judge has to look at it in letter and spirit, not decide on his or her own choice what is severity, that it is a petty domestic offense. We know 498A came as a result of tremendous struggles of women over years together, putting together documents before the Supreme Court. It just did not come out of mere discussions with the parliamentarians. And that is proof to show that these things must be taken into consideration of what cruelty is. And like Madam Flavia has talked about, it is from the woman's perspective. How dare a judge who is supposed to extend justice look at cruelty from his point of view? Watching TV, not allowed to watch TV, sleeping on the carpet. Will he, if as an example, if somebody does that to him, what will he construct that as? Not cruelty? Not human rights violation? Not unconstitutional? How dare he make these kind of statements? And a precedent being set on such a serious matter, that is sad. For many issues, India has several progressive laws. In fact, some of them are better than in the West and in European nations. Then you have these judges who decide to read into the letters and forget that there is a very clear understanding of what is cruelty. 498A came because women in marriage suffer various forms of cruelty, and women are unable to talk about it because of our patriarchal society that assumes all of this to be okay. It's domestic. It doesn't matter.
I think that's an important point.
Marital rape, of course, is not even considered.
What we might label as petty allegations, the larger issue, of course, is how the women's agency in a marriage, in a household, was taken away. I think that's a larger point here, and not so much about whether she was allowed to watch TV, and those actions in themselves are extremely cruel. But the larger issue of the woman's agency being taken away in a household, in a marriage. Ms. Agnes, as Brindaji was also pointing out, this is not just regressive and insensitive, but also bad jurisprudence. To say that these are petty allegations and they do not qualify as cruelty.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. And it sets us back several ranks. That is the main concern for us. That in the future, when these cases come, courts will say this is not cruelty. This is petty cruelty. This does not warrant interference of the court. And the husband family can go scot-free. Brinda made a very pertinent point. If this same thing happens to the judge, what will he consider it? I think it will never happen to a judge, and he cannot even fathom it because of the whole patriarchal notion. What is women's duty and what is men's duty? What is women's power and what is men's power? So he cannot even fathom it happening to him. And for women, women's role, women's predefined gender roles, according to that, this is fine. Women are supposed to be subordinate. They're supposed to listen to the husband and their family and suffer all these harassment and abuse as normal wear and tear of a marriage.
Sure.
So there's nothing great about it. Nothing, nothing to be worried about.
And I think what you said at the outset about, whether this would be considered as some sort of judicial precedent in more cases of cruelty. And Brinda, the last word to you. There is no hierarchy to violation, and similarly, there is no hierarchy to cruelty. An action cannot be sort of looked at as whether it was significantly cruel or not. Cruelty is cruelty, just like violation is violation.
You're absolutely right. Cruelty is cruelty, and a violation cannot be small and big, and it cannot become serious on Monday and not serious on a Sunday. What the judge has failed to look at, like I pointed out, is to understand the law itself in letter and spirit.
Right.
And that shows so badly on the judiciary. It should not become a precedent. No other judge should look at it. None of the defense lawyers must look at this case and say, this was done. I do hope that they will take this matter to the Supreme Court and it would be struck down. But again and again, it is the woman's family. It's the woman who has to go and continuously prove herself. And in this particular case, she's dead. I do hope judges understand that you are our last recourse. Look at this judiciously.
Absolutely. Brinda Adige and Flavia Agnes, thanks very much for joining us. Perhaps the most articulate voices on women's rights. But of course, as both of them pointed out, judges need to be more responsible. This is something that the Chief Justice of India has also repeatedly talked about, the outgoing Chief Justice of India. And now, of course, in the Supreme Court also, we have a manual of the terms to use, the terms to be careful about. But nothing will change till the time our judges become more responsible in making such observations.